Got it.
Hey, Grady, good to see you.
Hugo, good to see you, my friend.
I'm happy that you're joining me and
Happy
DESTINO.
Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Yeah,
Well, I wanted to talk to you so that we can get an insight on your world and what you do for us on a sitcom. So, would you be able to start with your name and what you do?
my name is Grady Harmon, and currently I'm working on a sitcom called Leane as a stand-in. And so what a stand-in is they go in and cover actors for the camera, for running the scripts, for tweaking dialogue and positions. And I've been doing that, I would think now for almost 15 years as a
Yeah.
supplemental avenue to my income as an actor and voiceover pursuer. So as we know, there's plenty of different avenues that are involved in film and TV. And that was one of the ones that I was really interested in. I thought, oh wow, stand-in work. That sounds unusual. It's a very unique job. And they kind of couple people that look similar to the actors that are in the shows or films, as well as like height ratio and hair color. And I don't think eye color is necessary, but you never know when it comes to film. Certain directors of photography would disagree and have to have specifics. But that's what I'm doing currently. And I think I first met you on the show Mom in 2013.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's been over 10 years since we've been doing this in the Chuck Lorre universe. And it's great. It's a great gig. I've been fortunate enough to be able to be working consistently doing that while also pursuing acting on camera and off camera with the voiceover.
hmm
And we can dive into that and talk about what that is. So
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to bring up Night Court only because we've worked on that show so closely, so I'm able to kind of touch on details. And for example, you brought up that you stand in, for example, for the character Dan Fielding, and tell us a little bit about how you landed that gig.
so I landed that gig through genetics of being I am 6'4" and I have a beard that's not as white as John Larroquette's beard, but I think that kind of helped to position myself with covering him because he is a very tall man and he's been doing this for gosh 40 years now, I believe. So I got the call because I knew some people that were working on it. They said, "You'd be a great fit for this guy." And
Yeah,
so I went in there, and after a couple of weeks of reading the scripts and showing them that I know how to do the blocking, and you kind of have to prove yourself all over again with a new crew.
yeah,
And one thing led to another, and we just kept going. So that was a lot of fun, and hopefully it'll keep going to be more fun as we move forward. But it's unique because when you first start on a show and you don't know many people or you haven't met the actor initially, the communication from what I have learned is key. It's first of all getting on a fresh set, learning everybody's names, regardless of what they do from the top to the bottom or the pay ratios. Just get to know everybody's names, and because they're all a vital part of the process to getting this product made, which is the TV show or the film. And then also don't be afraid to communicate with your actor because a lot of times, and with certain actors, people will come in and they have, large personalities. That's why they get paid to be on film and TV. And it's interesting because you have to kind of finesse your requests with people when they're in the headspace of learning dialogue because there's a lot of dialogue to be covered some days. There's monologues that go on that are very intricate that the writers have specifically positioned for this episode because it's fun or it's wacky or zany or what have you. So just don't be afraid to communicate and establish a connection with your actor to let them know that you're there for them to help them find the blocking, find the positions, and even run the dialogue. Because sometimes as a stand-in, you will be requested to be a dialogue coach. Not all the time, but sometimes you will be. And that's pretty cool because you get to go into their dressing room if they want you to, or down on the floor in the sets. And that also not only hones their skills, but it hones yours as well, because you're reading through the ancillary characters. And
Mhm.
sometimes, from what I've found in my experience with this, especially on Night Court, the actor's running late or they don't show up. And so you need to fill their shoes and run the scenes with the entire cast in front of the director, in front
Right.
of the associate director. And that is also another way of sharpening your tools. Iron sharpens iron and all those statements. It's true because you're never going to get that hands-on experience in an acting class
Mhm.
or through just watching films on how to act and do things. You're actually on the set with people that are seasoned pros that know exactly how to do the craft. And that's where you ultimately want to end up, right? I mean, you want to go from, as stand-ins, we're referred to as the second team.
Right.
The first team is the primary actors and the people that are doing everything. And I once had a stand-in come in pretty fresh to the set one time and said, "Second team, oh, I don't know about that. So the first team is the actors." I said, "Yeah." I said, "How long does it take for the second team to become part of the first team?" And I was like, "Well, it doesn't quite work that way, but you continue to stay in the second team and show that you're interested in being part of that first team, and it probably might happen for you, for a small co-star role or something." But I would say it's my key thing that I have learned through this process in 15 years, because outside of when you're doing your own voiceover stuff, you're the talent. They booked you for that. When you're doing the on-camera guest star, co-star, or the star, whatever you are the talent. That's what you're there. But when you're doing, the stand-in work, you're talented and people will hire you because of that. But it is behind the scenes process where there are nuances to it, to where you could just really observe the entire facet of what it is to be on a film set or a sitcom with multi-camera abilities. And
Right.
that to me has been the best education I ever could have gotten, more so than when I was in college and drama school or any other class I've ever been in, because you witness every part of this dynamic set going around. And you also can communicate that to your actor. If they seem to be a little nervous about something or they have a question, if you have that rapport with them, you can tell them, if you feel comfortable enough, like, "Oh, well, this is good. This is going to go through fine," and just kind of be that support system for them. But sometimes they don't. It all depends on the person, just like with any other business. So that to me has been, just like I said before, just monumentally just educating to see from just observing. And I've written these things down. So, you know,
Well, for us to film one episode of Night Court, it takes 5 days. So, for example, for you, what is it like on day one all the way down to the film day on day
film
five?
day for the live audience. I would say the first day we show up, it's probably the biggest observational day, just because the table read starts. They have a production meeting, then the table read comes in about 30 minutes later. They read the script, and then we'll go to rehearsals and rehearse each scene once or maybe twice, if that. And then we'll just stand there, we'll observe what they're doing, and we'll take, loosely based notes with a pencil and see where our actor is moving about in space, make sure that they've covered their scenes, and then go home. So it's a shorter day. And some days they'll do a table read and not even rehearse at all. And instance with Night Court, they'll come in on Monday and then they'll read the table read, and then they'll bounce, and then they'll come back on Tuesday and then really kind of hone in on what they want to do as far as positions are concerned and the blocking and everything else. Because the script, it changes, as you know. Every day things can change. As a graphic designer, they could change what they want from you, and then you're throwing a curveball and you're like, "Oh, well, I have to pivot and do this." And so on Tuesday, we'll come in, and that's more of like the nuts and bolts rehearsing day. And then we have a producer and writer run through only. And so we'll observe that, and we might jump in to do background atmosphere for them to help them to really feel the scene in a cafeteria or, a baseball park or whatever. And then Wednesday, another day of rehearsals. And then that is the producer, writer, and the network run through. That's like the biggest one, where pretty much all of the scripts or the script is locked in dialogue wise. I mean, things are always subject to change, but we'll observe that, and then we'll stay for lighting to help the DP help light if they need to with certain scenes. Sometimes not. With Night Court, I don't think we ever have. But and then Thursday is the pre-shoot day. That's the crazy day where all the people come in. Everybody comes in with the camera. If your cable runners, your electricians, your grips, the people that are involved in hair and makeup. It's a very busy, dynamic day, which can be overwhelming for some people.
Full house.
It's a full house, exactly. And so that's the day to really, really observe. I mean, you have your scenes that you have to block for the camera, and you'll go and do that. And that's probably the best time, because then you get to play. And the majority of the time, your best friends that day are the director and the associate director and the camera guys and the people involved with that, because they want to see the scene run with you first. And so we'll run the scene, we'll run the dialogue, and then we'll do it by the moves. So bit by bit doing the blocking, and then they'll really dial in on what looks good for A, B, C, and X camera. And that to me is probably, that's where we get to kind of play.
Yeah.
And then if there's any notes that need to be taken or delivered to the actors, we're in charge of that. So
Okay.
we'll go do that. And usually the director will say, well, I'll handle that as well. But it's good to kind of tell the actor, say, hey, we found a new discovery. Like that's what I always say is like new discovery. We're going to go and look at this. So when you come here, because that camera is going to not get you and you're going to block this person, so that they know when to deliver their lines and not to make it too complicated for them. Because if you put yourself in their shoes, like you want to have things very basic, very simplified, because you're retaining all this dialogue that you have to basically regurgitate with emotion sometimes. And so that full house day, when we come to the end of it, it's a crescendo because we all know we're gonna get this wrapped and not get too much overtime and blah blah blah. So that everyone's elated by the end of Thursday. And then the next day we come in later and we'll do some more blocking if we haven't covered the scenes that will be for the live audience. And then there'll be a camera refresh with the first team. And then they'll do that. If we have any more tweaking with the lighting, we can do that after. And then they'll show the whole show for the live taping that night
Yeah.
in front of the writers and the producers, just so they really hone into it and get everything dialed in. So it's entertaining for the people that are coming in.
Right.
So, and
And
that's that day. And Fridays to me, I don't know if you've seen this, but Fridays to me, as a stand-in, having witnessed this and also been a co-star on many different episodes of several different shows, those are the easiest days because you've got it. It's in the
yeah.
bag pretty much, and now you just play, and the stage is yours. And you can they'll have alts. There'll be alts to be given by writers and things like that, just see what works or what might be better. But to me, that's probably the most enjoyable day.
Right.
Apart from the table read's fun too because it's there's no pressure and you're coming off fresh from the weekend.
Yeah.
So, you know, but that's what I've always witnessed in the past 15 years of working on multicam sitcom is that everyone's jazzed and ready to go, and there might be a little bit of nerves, but most of that's washed out by Thursday's evening. So yeah.
Well, how do you compare that experience that you're telling us about in Night Court to something like a show on Mom?
Show on Mom, I feel like it went for so many seasons, for 8 seasons, which it's going to be rare if we see that ever again in today's modern television platform.
Yeah.
That it was really just a very fluid and wonderful. I don't want to say well-oiled machine because that sounds kind of coarse, but it really was. I mean, that Night Court is going in hopefully to its 4th season, and there are moments where there are hiccups just because there's so many different things being written. But when you have a cast of characters like you did on Mom, it really was, as it's been said before, lightning in a bottle because they all knew each other's motivations behind their words. They knew they were friends outside of the set. It's like a sports team. You take any
Yeah.
sort of sports team, I mean, look at the Dodgers now, and last year, the same situation. You have a cohesiveness with and the chemistry. That word is used very often, but you have the chemistry with these people, and it's remarkable because you may never get it back again. So it takes time for those shows to get their legs, and I feel like Night Court is getting its legs and it'll be moving forward in the right direction. Plus, you have seasoned actors and Marsha Warfield and John Larroquette and of course Wendy Malick and Melissa Rauch and Niambi Niambi. They're all phenomenal at what they do, and Lakrita as well. So it's just they have a chemistry that they've been building only through season 3, and hopefully it'll get better. So I mean, that's what I see about the longevity of certain things and the seasoned actors that are involved in a process of a show.
Yeah.
So coupled with phenomenal writers, it's just like if you're making a great stew or a soup of some kind, you've got to have the right ingredients, and these people have that. And sometimes you take people out and you put people in, or you upgrade people. I've seen a lot of people come through that started off as writers assistants, and they had a seat at the table by the time we hit season 5, just because they hung in there and they were still helping and doing things, and they would get jokes. And most of the time, people involved on the stage, I think Conan O'Brien said this best, if you're kind and you work hard, amazing things will happen in this industry. And I'm a firm believer in that because it does get a bad rep to be like, oh, you're an actor, or you're doing this, or you're doing stand-in. So then the ADs will all know you, and then they're not going to think of you for parts or roles. And that's simply just not true.
Yeah, I mean, for example, with you, I've seen you multiple times be able to turn the stand-in position into an on-screen role. So
Right.
for you, how does that come about, or how what's the story behind that?
Story behind that is usually if there's an ancillary character or a co-star character that they're not sure who's going to be cast yet, a TBD, to be
Yeah.
determined, then we as stand-ins will be requested to fill in for the run-throughs, for the writers and producers run through or the network run through the following day. And if you do a decent job and you hit your marks and deliver the lines properly, and they know that you've given an interest in wanting to be part of the show, then you will more than likely get the role
Right.
from what I've seen. And also, I've had auditions on the spot. Just recently on the show Leane that I'm working on for a voiceover announcer part that's in one of the major scenes. And they're like, just see, can you do this for us? And I did the audition for the voiceover, and then boom, you got it. And then you record it the following day. And a lot of times it's because producers and writers, they are watching. They want to see people be bought in to the product that they're selling. And if you're bought in and you're excited about being there and you really want to help out, not to a degree that's like excessively eager, but to a degree
Oh,
that just, you're genuinely trying to help out and make this a better process for everybody, then they'll notice that. And that's happened a lot. That happens just to be there, to be someone that's going to be helpful and not be pushy. I mean, people all want to work and many people want to be on TV and be seen, but just to show that you have an interest in leaving this place better than when you found it, and they'll notice it for the most part. Not not everybody, but for the most part, people notice that, and then they will talk to you about it. Like, hey, would you be interested in doing this? Is that something that you? And then you're like, of course. I mean, so
I remember for Night Court, the casting department already had this role in mind, and they were already familiar with your work on stage. And
right.
I remember your name coming up because you fit the description and your voice. So yeah, that like you said, like the work that you put out there does not go unnoticed.
Not going
Like your
noticed.
time will come if the right place, the right time, and the right role will come to you.
That's true. I mean, that's just to me that I think that's just generally business 101.
Yeah.
If you show an interest and you show that you want to be there and you bring a good attitude to the game, then more than likely it'll work out. Like, not every business, like I said, but we'll see. But yeah, it is also, keep people on your radar, be on their radar, and also just communicate that, like in subtle ways. That's how I've found it. And continue to hone your craft and continue to drive forward with what you want to do and make friends like this, like you and I mean, it's we've cultivated relationships over this over a decade. But I think it's about life in general. It's just about cultivating the relationships and people that you know. Not necessarily, I mean, networking is great, but not what have you done for me lately situation. Because there are going to be lulls in the business. There can be lulls in your career and as far as how you want to advance. And it may be not as fast as you'd like, but you'll eventually get there, provided that you just don't quit. You know, like if you
Well,
don't quit, and things will work out for you. I mean, I'm a firm believer in that. And like I said, the name thing, like getting to know everybody's names,
mhm.
like because you do the same thing. I mean, you're like the mayor of Warner Brothers. It's like you go, like everybody knows who you go. You go around and give people hugs because people just want to be acknowledged and noticed because there are so many, not a disparity for lack of a better term. There are different gaps and gulfs between the departments,
Mhm.
socioeconomically, as well as how they're seen, like in front of the camera, or that's the person, or this is the person that does that. But everybody is integral and important to the process. Like I said before,
Right.
just be mindful of that when you're involved in a stage in a production. You're all part of this process. You're all important.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
for those that just want to be in the environment, they just want to be part of the show. I've been asked like about background work. Are you able to talk about how that works?
So background work, I would say one of the primary or the primary gatekeepers of that would be central casting. And that's kind of the first place you want to go and kind of register with them, get photos in there, list your attributes, obviously your height and whatever else. And they can get you onto stages
Okay.
and as background, as atmosphere, just so you can get the feel of the set. I think that's really important to understand that. and to see how dynamic it is, if it's something that you're interested in, if you like that, whether it's a single camera, which can be long hours and days that are consecutive over and over again, wearing wardrobe that's unique or different or not, and then where it's or multicam, where you can go in for one day and be there for maybe 2 to 3 hours and then you're out just for one quick scene. So yeah, I would say central castings. There's several casting agencies around Los Angeles that do background work and atmosphere stuff.
Okay.
And I would just check in with all of those. But the juggernaut is central casting, and they're the go between us and the people that hire. And then once you get involved with them, they kind of just help facilitate the payments when people on stages, because most of the time I get called word of mouth,
Okay.
people that know me and have worked with me in the past. And then I'll just have central casting. They just do their thing and they'll tell me when the time is to show up. But you can also get that from the call sheet.
What
So
are some of the requirements that they ask you for, just even for background work?
for background work, I believe just a local driver's license. I would say that's probably very important. Just your availability,
Uh-huh.
I think, and then I think your attributes and your experience. So a lot of times I'll still get asked if it's a new person that's working there, what's my experience in stand-in?
Yeah.
Like like how many years, and to list just different shows that I've worked on, because they don't keep a log of that stuff. I wish
Uh-huh.
they did, but they don't. And so they'll ask you your experience and what you're interested in and what other kind of avenues you would like to pursue. So I think they want to get just a broad brushstroke as to where you're coming from and what your interest is being involved in film and TV, because they take it very seriously, like we all do. Like when you get to set, like you need to
You have to
follow
be on it.
follow the directions and be there on time, because I've always been told, like, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're fired. So it's like that's kind of the strict, hard and fast rule when it comes to doing background and stand-in work when you're first starting out and you don't have any sort of connections of people that you can call and lean on if things were to arise. But of course, if things do arise, you can call and tell them you've had something happen. But that's what I would say first and foremost, to check that out. But they want to just get an understanding as to where you're coming from.
And it's like the second assistant director, first assistant director, right? That does the hiring.
They do the hiring and the casting, for the background. I would say the second AD
Okay.
does the casting for background primarily, because they're the ones that will be directing. It's usually the second AD
Right.
that'll be in charge of kind of navigating the background through the scenes and putting them and placing them.
Yeah.
And then the first assistant director is the person who's in charge of okaying who comes through for stand-in work
Yeah.
or some background stuff and those different types of things that they need, shoes they have to fill for whatever it may be they're calling for the week. Because I mean, I've been on shows where they've had 20 stand-ins, and then sometimes there are shows where we've had like 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I think it was Big Bang Theory. We had 22 stand-ins for one of the scenes. It was a massive scene. And then you'll have shows where you'll have maybe just a handful of background to pepper it out to give it some life.
Sure.
And then you'll have other scenes where you'll have hundreds of background. So they've got a lot of work to do. And I feel like the more hands off you can be with them and let them do their thing,
Yeah.
you get to know them the better, and then they'll remember you for that. Just showing up and doing your job at the best that you can. And that's, pretty much the game from that level, for sure.
Yeah. Help make their job easier. They'll remember
Correct.
it, you know?
Yeah, make their job as simplified as possible, because they've got really their jobs are very hard. I
Yeah.
feel like AD has the job where they're trying to satisfy so many different people on the stage from top to bottom, and then tie it all together and make it work without any sort of disruptions. You know,
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that, we met back in 2013 and it was
13. I know.
a
Yeah, I know.
different world back then. But
Universe. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you were to do it again, all over again now, what would you do differently, or what advice would you have?
I think I would have had children earlier. I think that was because my wife and I decided to have kids a little later in life, and I think that was more of the process of when the best thing about acting when you are unencumbered by children or any other obligations you may have
Yeah.
is that your availability increases. You'll be skyrocketed into the availability category of like, oh, we'll bring you in for this, we'll bring you in for that, blah blah blah. You can get more done, but I feel like other than that, I mean, you are where your feet are, and I have to always remind myself of that. But other than that, I wouldn't change much of anything. I feel like I've done what I can do moving forward.
Right.
My goal is, I mean, I'm 46 now. My goal is by the time I'm 50, knock on wood, in 3 years, that I'll have things really churning around and I'll be involved in doing more production aspect stuff
Yeah.
and helping develop more. But I love acting. I love doing voiceovers. Stand-in work has been very great to me for
Yeah.
supplementing my income. And like I said, it's been another avenue, another side door into the business. But yeah, I would say if you're planning on having a family,
Yeah.
hunker down and really, really focus, because there are times where you'll get comfortable in this business where you've got a steady gig, like working on Mom for 8 years,
Right.
and you just get comfortable and you're like, oh yeah, this will be fine. It buys me time and do all that, but really, really focus and really be on people's radar. Stay in contact. Send out. Don't be afraid to send out emails or ask questions, because for the most part, people will remember you for your hard work and your kindness, and they'll help you out if they can.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to or will, but a lot of people from what I've met in my experience are very gracious and giving you a leg up, provided you're there to help them with their process.
Right.
And as you grow older and you cultivate the relationships, it becomes even easier to do that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Well, for me, it helped me out to be very vocal about what my goal was or where I wanted to be.
yeah,
And it's such a small world. Everybody knows everybody here that
it is.
you never know who you're going to speak to that's going to say, "Oh, well, you know what? I'm familiar with this person and that they do the hiring for this show," or
Yeah,
something along those lines.
exactly. Be very vocal in the way that, as Hugo Maldonado is. He's very kind. Well, just like that's the way that I've always been raised by
Mhm.
my family, just to be vocal about it and work hard and do what you're supposed to do. And people say, "Oh, have thick skin and do that." It's true. You don't want to lose who you are as a person,
Yeah.
but just understand that sometimes things may not just be right for you,
Yep.
because there have been times where I've had auditions. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was great. I knocked it out of the park, and everyone was satisfied. But then you don't get the role, and
Hmm.
that's okay. It's not a crushing defeat to your self worth or who you are as a human. It's just you're not the right shade of whatever they were looking for. So that's part of it to me too, because it's a numbers game. You
Hmm.
just have to deal with the rejection when you're going into the acting, and find an aspect of the business, because not every aspect of the business is going to be glamorous acting, big money making machine type work. You can go in any direction. And
Yeah.
then when you're doing that, see what, because there's a lot of just being on a set. To me, I mean, it's a bad day on set is a better day anywhere else. And I was told that ages ago. And it's very true, especially if you're with people that you enjoy
Yeah.
their company. So that would just perseverance is the one thing that I keep in my head. And that's a feather in my cap that I wish everybody would have, just to continue to persevere and to not get discouraged by it, because we all have those down days. But then just around the corner, there's a job where like you said, there's a contact you made 6 or 7 years ago
Hey,
with somebody, and they're like, oh my gosh, yes, you know what? This will be perfect for you. I'd love for you to come in and do this. And you're like, are you for real? And then sure enough, boom, you have a gig that goes for 5, 10 years.
one call away.
Yeah, it works all the way. So it's like, don't get discouraged. I know it is a very tenuous business. And a lot of times people get frenetic because you're on the stage, especially when a show is ending for the season, because everyone realizes that it's temporary.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going in and you're settling in with a corporate business and you're going to retire in 45 years or whenever. I mean, that's a long time. But yeah, but so that's part of what I've tried to temper myself mentally to understand, is that everybody there is a temporary aspect of producing this product, which is wonderful, which is fun. And if you understand that and you come to peace with that, then it makes the process that much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
So, because I know you've had the same types of things going on too. It's like when you're in a show and you're like, wow, I'm really going to savor this because this is unique and this is special. And these people are phenomenal people. And they're all creative and they're all smart. So living in this crazy city of Los Angeles, which I dearly love, when you go to the stage, you're just like, you can take a deep breath because it's it's a fun place to be.
Yeah,
So
and it makes you want to give it your all. It makes you want to be able to, bring what they ask you for,
exactly.
and you just want to be part of the team.
Want to be part of the team and have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's the most important thing, is to be there to contribute,
Mhm.
to be there to field questions and help out in your specific field. So, I mean, what greater joy can you have out of a job where you can? It's not just a job at that point; it's a vocation.
Mhm.
So, that's what I have to say on that. Yeah,
Well, thank you, Grady. I'm so
yeah,
glad that we got to talk today and get a
absolutely.
better view of your world and what you do for us.
Yes, yes. Happy to help out. Questions anytime.
Thank you, Grady.
Thanks, man. I'll see you soon.
Bye.